What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So, I went ahead and decided to do a video to answer this question. One of the guys in my chat group asked me, why is it that I don't have Giannis top 15 and, more around top 30-ish or so right now? And, the thing about it is I get what people are saying. The one championship he's won in Milwaukee is worth more than, say, two of Shaq's championships with the Lakers and all that. But then, if we're going to do that, then we're going to have to start ranking a lot of small market champions from a historical standpoint higher. We're going to have to start ranking Wes Unseld higher, Elvin Hayes. We're going to have to start ranking, maybe Chauncey Billups higher. Even if we don't like LeBron James, the city of Cleveland hadn't won a championship in 50 years. And it may be another 50 years till they win a championship. So I can't go off of 1 year of one great run and have that be my determining factor as to why that should be enough to put someone top 15. Maybe we all gauge players differently. I don't put as much stock on championships as some people do. I look at longevity. That's always been a big factor in my rankings. Some people say you shouldn't have to wait a whole career. I do. That's why I wouldn't call Steph Curry the greatest shooter of all time until recently. When people were saying he was the greatest shooter of all time, 2015, 16, I thought that was way too premature. He was on his way to doing it, but I need to see a body of evidence. I can't just go off of 2 or 3 seasons of dominance and have that be enough to call someone top 15. I can't do it. I can't do it. Because, look, we can argue that between 1986 and 1988, Mike Tyson was the greatest fighter we've ever seen. Now, you could argue, the opponents weren't of the same caliber as, say, when Muhammad Ali fought or, whatever. Hey, he got no control over that. But I know a lot of people who said that Mike Tyson, when he knocked out Spinks, was arguably the greatest heavyweight fighter they had ever seen. Some even said the most dominant or greatest fighter they've ever seen. Pound for pound, Mike Tyson was top 5. And then he just sort of completely fell apart. I'm just very cautious when it comes to these rankings. Is Giannis on his way? I believe he is. I believe Giannis is on his way to being a top 10 to 15 all-time player. What I can't do is put Giannis ahead of a guy like Karl Malone. And granted, Karl Malone never won a championship, but can we remember who he played in the finals 2 years in a row? Michael Jordan. It ain't like he was playing against, some B or C level pretender like this Boston team that the Golden State Warriors just played. Karl Malone played at a high level longer than maybe anybody else in the history of the game outside of LeBron James. The Utah Jazz, led by Karl Malone and John Stockton, probably had the consistently the toughest playoff runs, opponents, I should say, going all the way back to the 88 championship Lakers, all the way into the age of Chris Webber and the Sacramento Kings team. I look at the consistent production of Karl Malone year after year after year, and then playing at a high level for many years when most of his contemporaries had retired. I got to reward that some type of way. When I look at Moses Malone, for much of his prime, he didn't even have a Chris Middleton until he went to Philly, and then he was on a super team, and then he sort of fell apart, which is, something that can happen. I mean, when I say fell apart, I shouldn't say fall apart. He sort of went down a notch. He went from being a guy that was averaging, between 25 and 30 points a game and 15, 18 rebounds a game to being a guy averaging more like 22 and 12. And he did that for a number of years. And, he's played at a high level for, 17 or 18 or 21 years he played. Look, Reggie Miller. Now, Reggie Miller is not in my top 40, but I do reward him for his longevity. I reward him for playing on one of the least stacked teams in the 90s and still having, for the most part, and still having a lot of success with that team in a very difficult era, in a very difficult conference. So, when you say, who is my top 10 to 15, right now, guys like Shaq, Jerry West, Moses, Karl Malone, maybe Bob Pettit. They're somewhere in that range. And it's just difficult for me to put Giannis there already. Now, look, if Giannis had repeated and won another championship, like you said, in Milwaukee, I would entertain that. I definitely would. But to put Giannis on that level based off of one championship, and it was a tremendous run, but I just can't do that. I think look, I know a lot of people, they project, and I understand that angle, but I just can't do that. I've just never done it. It's just my preferred style of measuring players. I like to see these guys get some years under their belt. Preferably me somewhere around 9 to 10 seasons at least. And, of sustained greatness. Remember, Giannis didn't really start playing at a high level until, 2015, 16? So while, he's getting there, but I just don't feel comfortable putting him ahead of, say, David Robinson yet. Because I watched how dominant David Robinson was from the get-go when he joined the Spurs. I watched David Robinson lead a Spurs team in a very difficult conference when he really didn't have that great a team around him. For a while, like when he won the MVP in '95 and they won 62 games, his team was him, David Robinson, Avery Johnson. Had they gotten Sean? I don't think they got Sean Elliott back. Who else was on that team? Maybe Vinny Del Negro, Doc Rivers. We're not talking about a stacked team. And I think David Robinson gets really shortchanged when it comes to how dominant, how great he was as a player. And hell, if they had anything like a Chris Middleton, maybe they would have won a championship. So at the end of the day, I don't know. That's why I can't put Giannis there already. I can't quite put him top 15. If he had another run and he won another title this year, I could see it. I definitely would have had him in my top 20 and pushing top 15. And like I said, just a couple of more years of production, then I would definitely have Giannis creeping up in that top 15. Now, as far as, you having Steph Curry top 10, I mean, to each his own. He's definitely the greatest shooter of all time. If somebody want to have Steph Curry that high, I can't really argue it. I mean, he's been playing for a very long time, and he's the only Warrior with 20,000 points for the franchise, all-time leading three-point shooter, four-time NBA champion. He has the resume, definitely to warrant that. So I can't really argue it. It's just that to me, I just think that there's some differences between Steph Curry and a Kobe and a Mike and Magic. I just think, the fact that without Klay Thompson, Steph has never even been able to prove and to take his team to a playoffs, I think hurts him a little bit. But hey, that's another topic, But that's all I had to say.